we'll move on to old business. Take it away.
Alrighty, thank you everyone for coming. Under old business, we had 3 items that we're still in the process of working on. The first is our Office 365 project. It's ongoing, and we're anticipating a couple more months until everything is wrapped up. Over the last several weeks, since we last met on October the 7th, we've performed a considerable amount of maintenance on our on-site or on-premise actual Exchange server. That's the machine that handles all of our email. And we've built some additional quality control items, checks and balances in place, particularly with student accounts, with the goal of verifying their functionality. What we identified was there were some anomalies that were happening with some of the student accounts on iPads, and we've taken steps to correct that. And the other piece was the folks that haven't been migrated yet, as we go through that process, depending upon the volume of files and what's being saved on that machine here behind the wall over there, as we lose capacity, things are impacted and slowed down. So we're continuing to move forward with that project, and basically it's a domino effect, and I'll explain that a little bit more in a moment. The other project that's ongoing is our Apple School Manager project. More specifically, the classroom application itself that's being used by the teachers upstairs. Training for that took place on the 10th. We talked about that a little bit at the last meeting. Since we spoke at the last meeting and the training took place and things have been deployed, Apple has already released the second version. So, shocker. It's like there's a new iPhone. And there's another one. By the end of this meeting, there'll be another iPhone. With an update. And what was nice about it was the new version addressed connectivity issues that a couple of our teachers were having upstairs. Right now, we have one individual who still has connectivity issues between their student devices and their device and the functionality that should be in place. So the steps we're currently taking is we're working with Apple's engineers and their development team to try to get a solution in place, because it's one of those things, it's not just affecting us. Everybody who's deploying this is going to be affected by it. And once it's resolved, instead of there being version 1.01, now it'll be 1.02 and so on and so forth. So we're hoping to get some news. There's an opportunity this afternoon, which we may hear some news on that. The next item is over at the Wyomissing Hills, some solutions. The solutions that we've put into place at the beginning of the month of October continue to provide better connectivity. We had some issues in some areas of the buildings which were addressed with additional cabling. We also looked at where the cabling was being run in the building. There were some, unfortunately, that were run over ballasts and whatnot in the ceiling. These things were corrected, and much better user experience for the students. And earlier this month, I referenced how Kate Arndt was really instrumental in helping us, and we were going back and forth, and she was providing us a lot of information. So again, kudos to her, because we always appreciate it when we can troubleshoot things, with the actual end users, which is really helpful for us. Kate Bobes, the new principal of the Hills, and I have begun to work together. What we're doing is we're moving forward with laying groundwork for a more detailed roadmap for the Hills. Specifically, what are we going to be doing in terms of technology over there, in terms of supporting both the instruction and looking at hardware inventory, things that we already have, needs assessment, and then aligning what software we currently have licensed, whether it be through Pearson, GoMath, whatever the case may be, and the existing hardware, and then how that will drive upcoming hardware decisions so that everything falls within alignment. And I'm looking forward to that. We've had some nice discussions, and hoping to really lay a more detailed roadmap there. Any questions about the old business items? Okay, under new business, just wanted to share West Reading with our technology enhancements. The latest, greatest updates there are this Friday, Apple's educational executive team will be on site at the building. to provide training. Up until this point in the school year, we've done in-house training. I provided some. We also had some that were provided by teachers. Dr. Babb participated as well. And now we actually will have Apple's educational executives in there. And what they're going to be going over with our folks is some of the bundled apps that come with devices, basics of mobility. They're going to do an introduction, like a very top level. They're not going to get deep into SAMR, which is a learning model. What that stands for is substitution, augmentation, modification, redefinition. It's looking at how activities are done from a traditional sense in paper and pencil versus a digital electronic. And the idea is you work from substituting, for example, instead of writing, you use typewriter, all the way to the other end where you're producing something that's full-blown electronic. They're going to introduce that, and then go over the model learning, digital learning classrooms, and also similar what I did earlier this year with the digital workflow. So that's going to be pretty exciting, and it's going to be nice to have them over there actually on site. Upstairs, with the junior senior high school one-to-one project, we're in the process of implementing a new tracking system, and our goal is to have it shared with the guidance department later this week. And what we're doing is we're putting into place a life cycle for when new students enroll, and the process that students receive devices, when students withdraw, damage, unit tracking, so that when something's reported damaged, the interns are noting the date, the time, what's happened, when the insurance claim is filed, when the device leaves the building, when the device returns to the building, and then when the device is deployed to another student. So that whole life cycle of the unit is documented. And that will also be beneficial as new students transfer to the district, as new students are enrolled, or conversely, if a student withdraws, do we get the adapter, do we get the power cords, do we get the case, was everything in good working order, were there any obligations, and having that all documented. And I've had them working on it now for about a week and a half in-house to work out bugs and glitches before we go public with it, because I didn't want to share it with guidance, obviously, until we had a couple of days, a week or so under our belts of functioning and everybody doing the same thing. So again, they know what to expect on their end of things. We're also actively working through any remaining old Apple IDs that for whatever reason are on student devices, replacing them with the new managed Apple IDs. Our learning management system continues to grow. Page views, we've doubled where we were. We're at 2.6 million. If you recall, at the end of last year, we had hit 5 million in the end of June. So for us to be, essentially the last week of October, first week of November, to be already there halfway is incredible. Online submissions more than doubled. This time last year, we were at 10,700. We're at almost 25,000. So gigantic increase of using the technology, using the devices to collect work. And then my favorite is the distributing of the files. Instead of printing things out and distributing it, at this time last year, we're at 11,800 files. Right now, we're at 25,000. So again, more than double what we're doing. And if you look at a file, the system doesn't care if it's 2 pages like this or if it's 40 pages. So if we're cutting down 25,000 copies of a 3 or 4 page document, there's a huge impact here, which very, very happy to report. Unfortunately, we did have an unplanned project since we last met. Our student file server that we used to manage everything over at West Reading did fail. It was a major project, unfortunately, and it necessitated a rebuild. The good news is, whilst it did fail, it was able to be rebuilt and put back online within a day. So that's positive news, although it sort of shifted the whole workflow, looking at 24 plus hours. Our VLAN configuration project, Mike Matz, who's our network engineer, is working through our VLAN structure. What that is, it's our virtual LAN, our virtual local area network. And what that is it separates our users from where they are physically on our network. So we could all be, this group, the people at the Hills and over at Western, we could all be on the same network even though we're not geographically in the same place. It creates a virtual network that allows us all to connect. The important piece of that is, I mean, that's my analogy. Where it gets important is when you think about the partitioning areas. So we have an area that's utilized for students, we have the area that's utilized for the adults, and now with our security system and the upcoming train project, we had to take some steps to isolate those on our network. So, like let's say for example, you had someone working on our HVAC system, remotely getting access to indoor systems. We don't want our security cameras and our HVAC's equipment on the same network. So what that does is it's the same physical machines, it just separates things out so everything's more secure and protected. Just like what we do with the student information, it's separated out. Does that make sense? Yeah. Tried to stay away from acronyms and slipped briefly. But if you just remember, it's a virtual network across the district, and we have it partitioned, it's segmented, things are separated for security. Happy to report that in the world of STEM, the Android tablet configuration is complete. Mr. Minnick should have everything back in his hands from Mr. Matz with those devices online. What we're doing is the same Meraki configuration that Mr. Minnick has upstairs is what we're going to be deploying downstairs for Mr. Miller. And what that will do is facilitate devices. If it's a 2.4 gigahertz device, which is the slightly older technology, it will allow them to connect both there and also downstairs, which really expands, builds on the capabilities. In the library, media center across the district, all of them, we're working with Lori Baglicek, Brian Ackerman, Karen Less, and what we're doing is there are existing machines that they're using for the workstations are older iMacs, they're about 8 to 9 years old, and we're in the process of replacing those with new Mac Minis. If you remember, we had done some upgrades to the systems that they use there, like the Destiny software. So now what we're looking at is the actual hardware as well, because as it ages and reaches end of life, we need to address that. And then our next plan is to systematically continue to look strategically at different areas throughout the district and make sure that these things are addressed. In terms of help desk statistics and our interns upstairs, well actually they're not just upstairs now. I'm happy to report that we're actively deploying them as needed in different areas, particularly in the classrooms, which I'm really pleased with. At the Hills, we currently have 2 open tickets. At West Reading, we have 2 open tickets, and upstairs in the junior senior high school, we have 12. The interns have 4 tickets that they're tackling. There's some that it's been a good educational experience for them, but we're trying to think of the correct way of wording it. Yes, they got to spend some time with me going around to the elementaries, replacing bulbs and whatnot. But it was nice. It was a good experience for them, and they're also interested in doing some volunteer work for the district. But there's more in the pipeline for that to be discussed later. And then starting in November, what we're looking at doing is applying some different metrics to do a data analysis on that particular area of the park. So we can look at how we're addressing situations and problems and issues as they occur. And that's my updates on new items since we've last met.
Question on the interns
Yes.
related to classrooms.
Yes.
Some examples of what are they doing?
Okay. The most recent thing that they've been doing is, as we have got solutions in place with Pearson e-textbooks and the whole Easy Bridge system, what that is in our student information system, the way that these e-textbooks function is, eSchool has records for the students, records for the teachers, records for the courses, and then who's in which courses. So all of that information needs to leave there, be entered into Pearson, and then what that does is it allows a teacher to log into Pearson and say, okay, here's a list of everything that the district has purchased through curriculum. Here's the title, like if I was Jim Comerford, here's the title that I want to deploy to 8th graders. He can go in, see his class because it's syncing up, find the resource he wants to distribute to them, click on it, and then hit distribute. That system's all in place, working great. The trickier part was for the students to make sure, because Pearson's such a big company, they have 4 or 5 different apps. One's the e-textbook, one's the e-textbook 2, one's the easy text. Like there's a variety of different things. So what they've been able to do is go into classrooms, and I did this with them in the beginning. I took both of them into Brenda Phillips' classroom, and we walked through each row of students. This is how you put it on the device. This is how you configure the book. This is how you log into the book. And yeah, so that they understand it and they can replicate it. And then once they were comfortable and were able to do that, like in a nice professional manner, I've been scheduling, deploying them out to do that. That's one example. And then there's also some hardware issues. Again, the bulbs. We did again a field trip with Scott where I went over this, how you replace the bulbs, this is how you clean out the projector, how you remove the filter, et cetera, and then once they have it, and again, we go over the whole soft skills piece, because they need to know that that's 60% of this job. They need to know how to talk to the teachers, they need to know how to talk to the students, because they're not, no acronyms, none of that stuff, you know, so we can send them out and have them be professional.
Do you have an update, we talked about last time, insurance?
I will. I contacted Mark about it. He's still compiling it. He's projecting it'll be done by the end of this week.
Anyone else have any questions? You're quite on. Our next meeting date is